Center field. Ha-Seong Kim is also at Tampa Bay Ray. Pete Alonso and Scott Boras are doing this weird little song and dance, which we got to talk about for a moment, I guess. And then a couple of relievers also signed. Just Baseball Show today is Friday, Jan 31. It's not one of those months that fits in the rhyme. 30 days have September. It's not January. January's not in that. So today is the 31st. Again, MGM. Jack, Peter, how are you?
What a terrible intro.
Yeah,
For everybody
brutal.
listening, for everybody listening, we are brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. And remember, folks, first bet offer up to $1,500, which you can use on the Super Bowl or any of your MLB futures. All you got to use is code JUSTBASEBALL. If you've been enjoying the podcast in this offseason, be sure to rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, even leave a written review. And then, of course, like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Intro done. Let's talk ball.
Did you mean it? That I was bad at it?
Oh, well, you're normally
Yeah, no, that
fantastic at
was
it. That's why I can call you out for a bad intro.
it was really poor. I'm with you. So you know what? We'll strive to get better, and I'm sure we'll do that on Monday. But
I will
let's
give you a pass. I'll give you a quick pass. It's a
yeah.
Friday. You're relaxed. We're having fun. We're talking about the top 10 center fielders in baseball. We have a loaded list, and
Yeah.
you miss one occasionally. That's okay.
It's Thursday at 2:21, pal. I'm cooked. I'm absolutely cooked. The Rays and Ha-Seong Kim have a deal, a 2-year, $29 million deal with an opt-out available for him after the first season. He'll make $13 million this year with $2 million worth of incentives, a player option after that. This is the kind of deal that should make 20 to 25 other teams look at it and say, "Why didn't I do that?"
Yeah. So I tweeted out that I fell to my knees when I figured out how little amount of money Ha-Seong Kim just got, 2 years, 29 with an opt-out. Just to put Ha-Seong Kim in perspective, since 2022, he has a 10.4 F-WAR. That is higher than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Isaac Paredes, Jazz Chisholm, Pete Alonso, Bo Bichette, Christian Yelich. This guy's been consistent. You look at the WRC Plus, over 100 every season since 2022. Consistently great defense. But you know what this feels like to me, Jack?
What?
Ha-Seong Kim's market wasn't really materializing. The Rays come in and say, hey, we'll sign you for a short-term deal, rehab with us, come back from that injury, play as well as you can, and maybe we'll trade you. Maybe we'll get some value out of you. Because, as we all know, the Rays, they might backload a contract in order to then move a guy later, and it does seem like that's the case with Ha-Seong Kim's contract.
Yeah.
But for the Rays, it's in my opinion, I think a complete win-win. Because let's say the injury really derails him and you don't really get much value. It's not like you committed much to him anyway. And if he does play really well, you can obviously use him to win games or capitalize on that and then trade him and get an enormous return for him because he would be, if he goes back to what he was in just 2023, arguably one of the best defensive middle infielders in baseball while also being an above average hitter. And then we just ranked our top 10 second baseman. Is that really any different from guys like Nico Horner? Is that really any different from guys like Andres Jimenez?
Nope.
Not really. And those guys are getting paid way more, and there are hot commodities potentially on the trade market. We saw Jimenez get traded. So this is just such a good deal for the Rays for so many reasons.
You know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to run Kim out there when he's healthy, and it seems like he'll be ready to go in May at some point. It sounds like early to mid-May
Yeah.
is the guesstimated timetable right now. But okay, you buy some time. You run Cabby and Taylor Walls out there at short with Lau at second for the first month of the season, and then Kim is playing short while Lau is playing second. And all while this is happening, a top 10 prospect in Major League Baseball, and Carson Williams is hanging out in Durham, and he's at finishing school in AAA. And as soon as that young cat's ready, Kim moves over to second. They get out from the 10.5 they owe Brandon Lau,
Yep.
and Carson Williams is the shortstop.
And if Brandon Lau has a great first half, they'll get another prospect haul for him, right? Getting out from under 10 and a half, certainly it's not going to be huge. But Brandon Lau is Brandon Lau.
He'll
He could
reload.
hit
This
he,
is
could- he could
this
hit
is the
15
Tampa
home
machine.
runs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a perfect, I mean, the current infield right now, Junior Caminero, Ha-Seong Kim, Brandon Lau, and Yandy Diaz. That's one of the better infields. And then they trade Lau, they put in Carson Williams, and now they have the best left side of an infield in baseball when we're looking at age, right? Projecting that out.
Yeah.
Not yet, obviously, but potentially.
Yeah.
And then you have Ha-Seong Kim at second, arguably the best defensive second baseman in baseball, right? He's going up against Andres Gimenez and others, but he's right there.
Yep.
Yeah, they are. They're doing pretty well.
Yep, I would say so. I want to talk about this Pete Alonso Scott Boras thing for a minute before we get to the relievers and then the top 10 center fielders in Major League Baseball for 2025. This is from Ben Nicholson Smith of Sportsnet. A source said MLB agents have recently been informed they cannot contact Pete Alonso. This would have to be initiated by Alonso himself. Evidently, Alonso wants to continue working with his agent Scott Boras without hearing from other agents looking to poach him. I looked for corresponding articles, and the New York Post put something out, and there were other outlets that effectively were saying that Pete Alonso would be ditching Scott Boras once this was over, similar to what Jordan Montgomery did, because he feels like he flopped on the free agent market. And this is put out signaling that Alonso and Boras are in it to win it, and they are sinking with the ship together. It was a really confusing report to me because why would Pete Alonso pledge his allegiance to Scott Boras right now when it's clearly been, I think, a mishandled free agency?
And then I read a couple other articles as well. I know you're looking for corresponding reports. Like I just read articles that basically said the same report, and in some of those, it was the expectation that Pete Alonso was going to fire Scott Boras after
Exactly.
he.
So you have that, and you have other agents looking to poach Alonso, like they contact Pete Alonso saying, "Hey, come to us. We'll help you out. We'll be better." And now Alonso is saying, "Stop talking to me." He put the do not contact tag on himself.
Why? I mean, the whole situation. Well, I've been just screaming into this mic for months now.
It's a mind melter.
I've tried, right? Pete Alonso is shouldn't get Prince Fielder money, but I even compared him to Prince Fielder, and I said that the power output is not that different from a guy like Prince Fielder. And I've even tried. I was like, Pete Alonso does deserve a good amount of money. I'm not saying I've tried as if I have any impact on any actual agents and
Yeah.
owners. I'm just saying that it doesn't make any sense to me why a team hasn't come out and given him a 5, 6 year deal based on the talent that he is. And what also doesn't make sense to me is how Scott Boras has gone around and tried to get him a contract. And it doesn't make sense to me, the reaction from Pete Alonso. The entire thing makes no sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hurting my brain, man. Like I have no idea how this is all going to work out. But you know what? Best of luck to Pete Alonso. Best of luck to Scott Boras, and we'll see what happens here.
Before we quickly move on, do you think he's going to be a Met? I know I probably asked you the same question 2 weeks ago, and your answer might be the same, but do
Yeah.
you?
Yes. I think he's a Met. Do you?
No, but I can't think of a better option.
Seattle, but is Seattle going to pay him what he wants in
If
terms of the AAV?
I never want to include Seattle in any of these free agent talks ever again. If they didn't give Ha-Seong Kim that money, they're not they're not
Yeah.
in it for anybody. They're
Yeah.
just going to roll with their five starters. They're
Yeah.
going to roll with their above average bullpen. They're going to
Yeah.
roll out a mediocre offense.
Yeah.
They're going to win 86 games. And that's it. And I know it's like kind of depressing. That's not a bad season by any measure.
No.
But no, they're not going to be operating in the Pete Alonso market. I'll be
Interesting.
shocked if they are even a part of the rumor mill.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Then if you are entirely discrediting the Mariner pursuit, I would say he's a Met.
Yeah.
And we're just going to figure out what kind of deal it is. And if it's a bad deal for Pete Alonso, then he might not be a Boris client anymore. I have no idea how that's all going to shake out.
Do you agree with me on my assessment of the Mariners, or am I being too harsh?
I think I agree because they haven't shown us the other side. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like if in order for me to push back, I would need to see a counter to what you're presenting, and I have yet to see the counter.
I'm willing to get my opinion changed. I
Yeah.
would love for the Mariners to go out and go get some bats. I would
Right.
love it. I,
Right.
we need more competition in the American League. The
Yeah.
American League has now turned into the LeBron East, where he just ran through that conference, and it was like the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors losing in five, and it was a
Yeah.
miraculous win if they got one. That's kind of what we're seeing in the American League, but there isn't even a LeBron, really. Like you could say the Yankees, but they just lost Juan Soto. They're still good, but I wouldn't say they're far and away the best. Orioles are good.
Right.
Red Sox, we could keep going through the teams, but it's just not a great league. They could go out and really dominate here, but they choose not to for whatever reason.
No, I think you can make the argument that, the four or five best teams in Major League Baseball are all in the National League right now.
Absolutely you could.
Yeah. You could venture to six, depending on how San Diego fills out their roster, but I would say that the five of LA, obviously, Arizona,
Yeah.
Philly, Atlanta, and the Mets. I
I
mean,
would say definitely the Dodgers. I would say definitely the Phillies. I would probably say the Braves.
yeah,
Mets, I'm not sure if they're better than the Yankees, but they're at least equal. Like you can't tell
yeah,
me the Mets are
yeah.
worse than the Yankees.
And the Diamondbacks are swimming in the same pool as the Yankees right
Exactly.
now.
The exact same pool. So I,
Yeah,
I would almost say the Diamondbacks are probably better than the Yankees. And the
yeah,
Mets would be maybe the odd team out, but they're
right,
definitely not worse. They're
right.
just on the same level.
Yeah. Not in this grouping, but still spending. How about the Kansas City Royals inking Carlos Estevez, 2 years, $22.2 million with a club option at $13 million in his age 34 season in 2027. He's going to make $11 million a year in his age 32 and 33 this year and next year. But they grab a guy to be a co-ninth or an eighth to Urseg's ninth. They needed somebody else in that bullpen. I love Lucas Urseg. Urseg, for me, is a guy that's knocking on the door of the top 20 relievers in Major League Baseball. I think that guy is a legitimate closer. Estevez, I worried about at points in Philly closing games. It just seemed a little bit more finicky than what I like seeing from the best team in baseball or one of the best teams in baseball, like Philly. But there is no denying that Estevez is a fine closer and B an elite eighth inning guy. And they got an elite eighth inning guy to pair with another elite eighth inning borderline ninth guy in Urseg. This was needed and it was well executed by Kansas City.
Yeah, I'd probably give this signing like a B. A B minus. Multi-year deal, 22 million for Carlos Estevez is a little much in my opinion, but
Yeah,
what I
but
will
Hoffman
say
got
is
3 for 33 and
I'd
Estevez just got 2 for 22
I'd rather have Hoffman like almost.
with some medical concerns.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know the medicals. So we've heard there are medical concerns. The Blue Jays felt that the medicals were all right enough to give him a 3-year deal. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But Jeff Hoffman is the definite better pitcher, and they're signing Jeff Hoffman to be their closer. I don't know if they're signing Carlos Estevez to be their closer. I think they gave him kind of that quasi ninth inning money. So that's why it's kind of a B. But
Yeah.
I do think Lucas Urseg is better. I think Carlos Estevez is going to come over. I think he's going to pitch in the low threes.
Yeah.
He's not a heavy strikeout guy, even though he throws really hard.
Hmm.
In 2023, 11 strikeouts per nine. Last year, less than 9.
Yeah.
Not really ideal, but still a solid reliever. And I
Yeah.
don't think that this is going to bite them in the butt. I think he's going to go over to Kansas City. I think he's going to lock down the eighth inning relatively, be
Yeah.
very solid, and Kansas City's not going to worry about this amount of money. But what
Yeah.
I will say is still giving him $22 million. I was just a little bit surprised when I saw that come off across the ticker. I was like, whoa, congrats to Carlos Estevez. What a back. Good
Yeah,
shit.
but like he was going to get paid. Like you see Hoffman. Damn, dude, you see Kirby Yates get 13. Like you knew Estevez was going to get 11. And I
But
know Kirby
again,
Yates was a heck of a lot better than Estevez, but Kirby Yates is also what 4 years older than Estevez at this point.
here's my thing. Would I rather have Estevez than Tommy Canley? Maybe. But Tommy Canley got 7.75 from the Tigers. Would I rather have Carlos Estevez or Ryan Stanek? Yeah. Not by much though. And Ryan Stanek got 4.5 million to go back to the
Yeah,
Mets.
yeah,
That's where I'm just saying, like, it's not a bad signing by the Royals.
right.
Like, I think Carlos Estevez is better than those two relievers, but
Yeah,
he's not that much better where he's doubling or tripling the amount of money that they got. That's
yeah,
kind of where I'm at. That's why it's a B. I'm not mad at it. The Royals
yeah,
got better today. So a
yeah.
Royals fan shouldn't give a shit about my letter grade. They're better.
Right,
That's all that
right.
matters. I don't think he is a $22 million reliever if Tommy Canley's is 7.75, if Kirby Yates is
So
13.
Okay, yeah, so I hear you, but you have to look at him as an $11 million reliever because that's what they're paying him over the course of the given year.
But
Not,
still,
I get the total money thing, but also like we're talking about a 1 year deal for Canely and a 2 year deal for Estevez when I think Estevez was deserving of that, and I think Canely was probably not deserving of a 2 year deal, but he got his 1 year deal from Detroit. KC got better. Detroit probably got better with Canely,
yeah.
$7.75 million. I just worry about falling into a rut of 50 something straight changeups. I do. I do. And I know that it's a
So
really
fair.
good pitch, but it
So
is
fair.
so predictable. And we talked about this during the postseason. You throw 52, 54, whatever the final tally was, you throw 50 plus consecutive of the same pitch. Guess what? There's literally a zero chance that the 0% chance that the opposing batter doesn't know what's coming. He knows exactly what's coming by the time you hit 45 consecutive, and he pushed it further than that. I worry about a two trick guy turning into a one trick pony. And he was a one trick pony in the postseason. Would I pay a one trick pony $7.75 million? I wouldn't. And I understand the trick's awesome. But at a certain point, major league hitters are major league hitters. And I start to dislike your value if you threw 50 whatever consecutive changeups.
So what I want to say is that rant entertained me. I thought it was funny. And I
Okay.
thought for 75% of it, I was with you. And then you fell off at the end, calling him just a one trick pony because he threw 52
He
straight
was a
changeups.
one trick pony.
Pitched to a 2.11 ERA last year. 2.11.
Yeah, but at the end, I'm talking about at
I
the end.
know.
I'm not
It was
talking
a
about the
weird
whole
stretch.
season.
I know, but are we supposed to assume that this guy is now just changeups? I don't think that we can assume that. I think that we can look at that stretch and say that was weird. Why did he
Oh,
do it that
okay,
much?
yeah. So let me ask you now, pushback. What happened to the fastball then?
I
You
don't
know what I
know.
mean? Like,
I don't know what the Yankees told him. I don't know what Austin Wells, maybe behind the plate, and Tommy Kahnle were working on. I have no idea
was the
why the
fastball button broken on
I don't
PitchCom?
know. It seemed like it because why would you throw 52 changeups in a row? But what I will say is Tommy Kahnle has proven to be a very solid reliever, and then
Yeah.
brings me back to the Estevez conversation. Yes, Estevez is making 11 million this year. Would you rather pay Tommy Kahnle and Ryan Stanek and have both of them, or would you rather have one of Carlos Estevez and then
Yeah.
Carlos Estevez twice, 11 million year for the next 2 years?
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming at this, but
And
for our listeners, they may not even give a shit about this entire conversation, but sorry, Jack and I like debating over reliever value. Sorry.
yeah. So here's what I will say. The changeup is really good. And he also threw it 73% of the time during the regular season. He threw 548 changeups. He threw 145 four seamers.
All right, so he's a Walmart Devin Williams.
Changeup, opponents hit a buck 57 with a 264 slug. Four seamers, opponents hit 290 with a 540 slug.
All right. So that means
It
he
was just the
can throw
changeup.
all that means he can throw all changeups and get you out, Jack. You specifically.
I'm so frustrated with this. We got to move on before I blow a
I
gasket.
hope he comes out and just throws like 50 to start the year just for the
Dude.
meme.
And like
And I hope
sporting a
it
JP
works.
Fire Eyes in ERA, just
Yeah.
zeros.
Zero. Just
Whole
not
bunch of zeros.
just a
Like
bunch of immaculate innings of just change ups.
I'm so all the Twitter threads. Why is this guy untouchable? Because he doesn't throw anything else but change ups. That's it. Let's go to the top 10 center fielders in Major League Baseball for the 2025 season. Again, we take the average score of all six on our voting panel. I'm on the panel. Peter's on the panel. Arm's on the panel. And then our three editors, Ryan, Leo, and Eric, are on the panel. We'll start with the honorable mentions at the center field position. Evan Carter of the Rangers coming off injury. Dalton Varsho of the Blue Jays, a guy that's going to miss some time with injury. J.J. Bleday in Sacktown coming off of a career year. And Cody Bellinger trying to bounce back in new territory with the Yankees. Who jumps out to you with that four? I think Evan Carter for me because he could absolutely jump into like the middle of this top 10.
Yeah, you ranked him number 8, which I kind of support because if you are an Evan Carter believer, you should be ranking him 8 on these rankings. I ranked him 11. Arm ranked him 10th. The thing is, Leo didn't even rank him in his top 15. So there's potential that Evan Carter could have been the 10 spot, on this top 10 center fielder list. We just don't really know what we're going to get. We
Yeah.
got a young hitter who looked phenomenal in the regular season, then took it to new heights in the postseason en route to a World Series, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
And then he's downright bad. Not just hurt, but good, and then continues that, right? Continues that great stretch, but he just got bogged down by an injury. He was downright bad. So, what are we supposed to expect from him? I'm still a believer. I still believe in that plate discipline. I still believe that he can make consistent contact. He's going to get the ball in the air. Some of those are going to go over the fence. So I'm still an Evan Carter believer, but again, he's just a tough guy to rank. Another problem I had. I mean, what are we doing not having Parker Meadows in the honorable mentions? What are we
What do you
doing?
mean?
What are we doing not having Parker Meadows in the honorable mentions? That's exactly what I mean. I
What do
know
you
the
mean?
aggregate took Parker Meadows out, but I am saying, what are the rest of you thinking not having Parker Meadows in these honorable mentions? I'm a Yankee fan. Give me Parker Meadows next year over Cody Bellinger.
Are you
100%.
serious?
Are you serious?
Yeah. He's a year into his career and he's less than a year removed from being optioned.
And he was fantastic in the second half part of the season. Aren't we in the business of projecting?
Yeah, I'm projecting, and I'm projecting Bellinger to have a better year than Parker Meadows.
You want to make a bet?
Yeah, absolutely. I would
Okay.
love to.
Because this is a win-win for me. If Cody Bellinger is actually better than Parker Meadows, that means my Yankees are awesome. But if he doesn't, then I win the bet anyway. So we going F4? Or do you want to change it to help your narrative? F4 is a pretty good stat for center fielders.
It is. Yeah, I'll go F4.
Okay. What are the stakes?
I don't know. Don't I have to say something nice about you on a game?
Yeah, you're already 0-1. Do you want to double down twice? We'll let the people decide.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll let the people
Whatever.
decide in the YouTube comments below.
Pick something else.
Yeah, pick something else. And don't make it crazy, right? This is a center field war bet. Don't kill us. Make it
Yeah,
something fun.
right.
So in the YouTube comments below, if Cody Bellinger has a higher F WAR than Parker Meadows of the Detroit Tigers,
Yeah.
I have to do something.
Yes.
The other way around if Jack. So
Yes.
we don't even have to debate about it. We're going to let
Yeah.
it all play out. I got Parker Meadows for sure of the Tigers.
Okay. I really like Blade, and
Me
Varsho
too.
we know is a platinum glove level defender
He's
when
awesome.
he's healthy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's just out for a month. But I've got really minimal to add on those two guys. I'm excited to watch him play ball.
Yeah, exactly. Dalton Varsho, we know how good of a defender he is. And I still think the bat will eventually show up.
He's too
Um,
strong.
yeah, he's too strong, but it hasn't in a little while. But no, I
Yeah.
still think he's a solid player. I like JJ Bleday a lot. You
Yeah.
can go get it in center field, has some power too. So just a pretty solid group of honorable mentions. Nothing really to add as well.
Yep. All right. Let's get into the top 10 in a moment. Before that, we'll take our first break. Number 10, you like deferrals? How about Tommy Edman of the LA Dodgers? Tommy Edman recently extended by the LA Dodgers after being a deadline acquisition from St. Louis. He was hurt when he was acquired. He came back and was the NLCS MVP, and he was a postseason hero. I had him 11. So did Eric and Leo. Ryan had him at 9. Aram had him at 9. You were the high guy on Tommy Edman at 8. I think I docked him because I think he's going to be a shortstop by the end of the season. I think they're going to move Mookie somewhere else, and I think Edman's going to play short for him. But if he is their everyday center fielder, I think you're getting a guy that lacks the power of pretty much everybody else on this list, but does everything else and does it so soundly. I have zero issue with him being a top 10 center fielder in the game.
Quick story. As we all know on this show, I have an entire friend group from home that is all Dodger fans. I'm from Santa Barbara, California, except I grew up a Yankee fan. And over the years, I've been a Tommy Edman supporter. When he was on the Cardinals, I was like, this guy is a gadget guy. He can do everything on the baseball field. He's not that great of a hitter, but that's his worst quality, right? He can do everything.
Yeah.
He put up a 5.3 F WAR in 2022 with a 106 WRC plus. Like that's the type of player that he is.
Yeah.
And all of my Dodger fan friends continually made fun of me. They're like, why are you hyping this guy up who can't hit?
Yeah.
Then he goes over to the Dodgers and they all apologize to me. They're like, oh shit, now we see watching Tommy Edman play baseball every day. That's the kind of guy he is. And then what made me so happy is that Tommy Edman rose up in the biggest moments and dominated. Now, over his postseason career, 67 plate appearances in the playoffs, 328, 354, 508 slugging percentage for a 139 WRC plus. This guy does everything, and then the bat comes in the biggest moments. Yes, I will definitely take him. And also, yes, we are ranking for center field. You're talking about docking him for potentially moving to shortstop. I
No.
moved him up. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of that ability to play a good shortstop, an elite second base, a good center field, and of course, you can throw him in any corner and he's going to be elite as well. I gave him a bump for that.
I would kill to make him the number one utility guy in Major League
Oh, I
Baseball.
would kill
Like
too.
I would have
Yeah.
killed to have him at number one on our utility list. Although I am a Brendan Donovan truther, I would
As am I.
happily I would happily move Donovan to two in order to make way for Tommy Edman. And I
Yeah.
think he is best utilized as a utility guy. I think he would be best if he was a fireman for the LA Dodgers this year. Somebody goes down, oh, we got Edman.
Yeah.
Like I love that. But if he is playing every day in center, I think he's valuable enough to be top 10.
And I think also it's fair to dock him slightly because he only played 37 games in the regular
Sure.
season, right? He was hurt, but this isn't a history for him. He played an entire 2020 season. 2021, he played 159. 2022, played 153. 2023, played 137. And then last year, he got hurt. And then when he did play, he was great. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definite top 10 for me. But I could understand people moving him down slightly because he was injured last year. And 98 WRC plus is not awesome.
Right. Nine.
9 on the top 10 center fielder list is Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. I'll give you the slash line because it sucked. 224, 278, 379. What? Luis Robert? What? So let's go through because and for all those watching on YouTube, I'm like wiping my face because it's just a wild roller coaster of a career for Luis Robert so far, and he's one of the hardest players to rank, I think, in Major League Baseball. We're talking about boomer bust guys, so
Yeah.
let's take you through it. 2020 comes up and wins the Gold Glove in center field. Hits 11 home runs, steals 9 bases in 56 games. I know you as a White Sox fan, you start to go, "Oh shit, what do we have here?" And then he was awesome in 2021. Awesome. But he only played 68 games. So we continue to ask, what do we have here? Then 98 games in 2022. He was okay, but it was really bogged down by going 1 for 23 in September.
Yeah.
Right? So at this point with Luis Robert, we see a ton of talent, but the consistency isn't there. Staying on the field also isn't there.
Yeah.
But then in 2023, 38 jacks, 20 stolen bases while playing elite defense in center field, produced a 4.9 FWAR at just 25 years old. And we say, there it is. That's the talent. That's one of the best center fielders in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And then in 2024, he was unrecognizable dog shit. And he'd probably tell you that. Highest strikeout rate of his career at 33%. And now he's 27 years old. Who is Luis Robert? That's my question. Who is he?
We have that large of that small of a sample. And
Yes.
that sounds so backwards, but we've gone through this so many times and we've seen so many different versions of this, and he's still only 27.
Yeah.
And I think everybody knows that a player that's better than Michael Harris is in there. I think
Yep.
everybody knows that he's a really good bat and could be an elite defender in center field because they saw it in
We
23.
saw it with our own eyes.
But I think there are a lot of people that are also getting really tired and really frustrated with the Luis Robert experience because it's almost more tantalizing than the Eloy Jimenez experience or the Yohan Moncada
Way more
experience.
tantalizing. This is not quite bordering on our seventh guy, but it's got the
It's getting
skeleton of
close.
him.
It's
Yeah.
getting really close to
Yeah.
number 7. But I I love him because I know what he can do. It also frustrates me because I know what he can do. And that is how this is complex. And I don't know who backed out of this reported Reds White Sox thing and this trade to Cincinnati that fell through, and then Cincinnati pivoted to Austin Hayes, which in a vacuum I think is a good deal for them. Like at what is it, $5 million for Austin Hayes? Sign
Slate
me up for that.
Clay Snowden put out a hilarious tweet. He goes, both Austin Hayes and Luis Robert were all stars in 2023. It's like, he's not wrong.
They're kind of the same guy.
Kind of the same guy.
Clearly one has a higher ceiling.
Yes.
Clearly the other is on the field more. So
Yes.
I understand the pivot. I also don't know who initiated the pivot. The White Sox felt like they could get a better deal from somebody else. They want him to reclaim some value in the front half of the season. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I will say it's it's going to be a weird day in White Sox land when he does get traded.
So I felt legitimized. I brought up the Reds Luis Robert trade just as an idea because I thought it was a perfect fit, and it stinks to kind of see it not go through
Yeah,
because I would
it
love.
was happening, but then it didn't happen. Yeah,
Yes, I would love to see Luis Robert in Great American Ballpark. I would love to see Luis Robert on a team that is clearly going for it.
yeah,
Is it a result of being on the worst team in baseball history, right? We've talked about this with Luis Robert. Is it a motivation thing
yeah.
where he goes to the ballpark every day and they expect to lose?
Hmm.
How would that affect his mental? Because we know Yogi Berra, baseball's 90% mental, the other half is physical.
Yeah,
And that's true. We all know baseball's a huge mental game. So if you go to the ballpark every day and you know your team sucks and you know that whatever you do on the field doesn't matter, how are you going to play? So
yeah.
that's why I'm still a believer. I still am. I think Aram is out. Like, I don't even think he really even is intrigued anymore. I think you're in the middle.
You mean
If
he had
that's,
him at 8? He was the high guy on Luis Robert.
oh, so I guess it's maybe his rhetoric. And then when it came down to actually ranking these guys, he's like, yeah, he's still pretty damn
That's
good.
what he is, man. He's all talk.
Yeah, he's all talk. It's funny. He ranked him higher than I did.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so maybe Arm is actually more of a believer than all of us. But I think that perfectly encapsulates the confusion.
Yeah.
Arm seems out based on his rhetoric and actually ranked him higher than I did, and I'm in. That's Luis Robert at number 9 for everybody.
And that's center field in the macro. Like
Yeah.
things are just so volatile here. And honestly, 1 through 10, like I had no idea how to assort 1 through 10.
Yeah, this is a tough list. And even down to like 1 through 5. Like,
Just like,
don't you think this might have been the hardest besides pitchers? Because that's really, really tough. So
yeah,
just on the offensive side, don't you think this was the hardest list to rank?
probably. I think utility was hard, but like utility's weird, and
I
we
think we
make
should
that up.
scrap
Like
utility
nobody
next year.
does.
We should scrap utility
We
next year, to
could
be
scrap
honest.
utility if
Because
we
we're
wanted.
just we're ranking all of the guys who don't really have a position.
And then it's like, oh, you guys forgot Dylan Moore. And it's like, yeah, we did. You know why? Because we don't know how to sort by utility.
Yeah, it's just it's a tough ranking, but center field is tough. But I mean, these
Center
guys are
field's
all
tough.
good. Like
Yeah,
Luis Robert is at number 9, coming off of 2023 where he hit 30 HX, still 20
right.
bases, put up a 4.9 F4. That's where we're at.
Right, exactly. But it's just funny seeing Luis Roberts stacked with number 8, and
Yeah,
number 8 is another crosstowner. It's Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs. Arm was the high guy at 6. I was next at 7. You were the low guy at 10, and then all three of our editors, Ryan, Leo, Eric, all had him at 8, which is where he lands. Why do you hate PCA?
I don't hate PCA at all. I ranked him as a top 10 center fielder. Um, I guess I am just
Waiting.
I'm questioning the bat, and I am also waiting, right?
Yeah.
Because he
So
came up, he has 410 plate appearances from last year. He put up a 670 OPS,
it
and
was an 87 WRC plus.
yes, Cubs fans are going to say, well, Peter, he got better in the second half. And I agree with you. That's why I put him in my top 10, right? Because there is a sliver of believing in the bat. But the bat was so good that it was a 735 OPS
Yeah.
in the second half. Like it was so good. It was okay. It was better, right? And even if he is a 93 WRC plus guy, the defense is going to carry him. But another reason I was a little bit lower on him is that the defense I didn't view as unbelievable yet.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get there, but we
Yeah.
remember there was a couple of weird mistakes, a couple of mental breaks out there in center field. He's an eccentric guy. I think as when he settles down and as he matures as a baseball player, he is going to be a mainstay in this top 10. But
Yeah.
I think it's fair for me to sit here today and say he hasn't proved enough to be better than some of these guys. He just hasn't. But I'm with you. Like I can already hear arm of what it could be.
Yeah.
And that's why I put him 10, but to put him 6 is I think it's jumping the gun a little bit.
I will say, and we ran through the OPS and the 87 WRC plus. He swiped 27 bags. He was very efficient when he did that. And in 123 games, he gave you 14 outs above average in center field. Like in an 87 WRC plus, he was a 2.5, 3 win player. So if he's league average and we think he can be, there are some things approach wise that got to shore up. But if he can be league average, we're talking about a 4.5 win player. So
Oh yeah.
I think that is where Aram is, and that's probably where I am closer to it, where I don't see something too far off from Brenton Doyle, if we're being totally honest. And that is where I stand. And you're saying I want to see it before I rank it.
Kind of. Like I think I'm 90% with you. I
Yeah.
think I am lower on the bat
Okay.
overall.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a possibility that he's not an even a 90 WRC plus guy
Yeah. And only time will tell, I
because
think.
he made no impact. Like he hits the ball so soft, or at least that's what he did last year. Like the batted ball quality is not good.
It was good in the minor leagues.
And yeah, but it wasn't good in the major leagues.
Yeah,
And we're
there's a
ranking
difference.
major league center
There's a
fielders.
big
Yeah,
difference between the
yeah,
minor leagues
exactly.
and the major
And
leagues.
it could result in something, but there aren't a lot of areas offensively where I'm pointing and saying that's going to get way better.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Cool.
That's why I'm a little bit lower. So Cubs fans, relax. Still in my top 10, just not
Yeah.
as far as Jack and Arm.
Yeah.
Because I know they're all PCA believers. I mean, in Chicago, and for good reason. Like he's so fun to watch. Like we're talking about the numbers, right? We're going through a lot of, does he make the right swing decision? At some point, a Cubs fan turns on the TV. He sees a guy with blue hair running faster than everybody on the field, showing tons of emotion, having so much fun out there. Fuck yeah, I'd enjoy that player.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't really care about how the offense is, maybe he doesn't make the best swing decisions or maybe his quality of contact isn't great. Like, they don't give a shit. They like watching PCA, and I hope he's great this season because if he's great, better for baseball.
Right.
All right, getting to number 7 on the top 10 center fielders list, Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. If you think he should be higher, you're right. If you think he should be lower, you're also right. So the Byron Buxton experience is incredible. And it's almost gotten somewhat fun at this point just because I can project his numbers over 162. And when he is on the field, he has been fantastic. Like, he put up a 4.1 F war in 61 games in 2021.
Yeah.
Only 28 players last season had a 4.1 war or better. 28 players. The lowest amount of games was Mookie Betts at 116, who put up a 4.4 war.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's an all-time talent. And last year, he was awesome. In 102 games, 279, 335, 524, 18 jacks, was great in center, 142 WRC plus, meaning he was 42% better than the league average hitter, putting up a 3.7 war. If he just plays 150 games, he's definitive top 3 center fielder in baseball.
Yeah.
Probably better.
Yeah.
But 102 games, we're we're ringing the bells. We're sounding the alarms. We finally got a healthy-ish version. Like, we're so happy to see 100 games. A reminder that the season is 162. Still missed 60 of them. So, whatever your opinion about Byron Buxton is, you're probably right.
I was the low guy on Buxton, and it's not because of the production on field. It's because we are now 10 years into his major league career. He debuted in 2015, and I understand that was not an opening day debut, but he debuted in 2015. We have parts of 10 major league seasons in the baseball reference register, and 102 was the second highest games played total he has
Yeah.
on his ledger. And the next highest is 92 twice. It's not like he got to 101. It's not like he got to 99. We're talking about a guy that was struggling to play 90 games, which is 55% of the season. I can't do that. I can't do it anymore.
And you're right. You got nothing coming from me. I ranked him higher. Like, I understand. If you are upset with the lack of availability of Byron Buxton, you're right. And
Yeah.
you can knock him down your rankings. But what I will say is
If you
when he
love what he does when he's on
yeah,
field, you're right.
which I do. I love it
Yeah,
so
I get
much.
it. I
It's
get it.
such a freak talent when I'm watching him. He glides like a gazelle in center field.
Yeah,
He hits the ball with such authority. He's so fast. He's just so unbelievably talented.
yeah,
And imagine if he played all 162. We'd be talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's the level of talent Byron Buxton has.
yeah,
4.1 F4 in 61 games is absurd.
yeah.
Stupid. He's on pace for a 12-win season. Like Aaron Judge put up an 11-win season last year.
Yeah.
That's the talent. Just not on the field enough. So we got to put him at 7. It's like you can put him at 3, you can put him outside the top 10. I don't know. But he's at 7, which is a great spot for him, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now we get to a guy that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Number 6 is Brenton Doyle of the Colorado Rockies. And this is kind of the opposite conversation, if we're being totally honest. I had him at 6, which is where he landed. So did you. So did Eric. So did Ryan. Leo had him at 7. Aram had him at 5. So there was just a little bit of a deviation there with Leo being a teensy bit lower than typical and Aram being a teensy bit higher. I was never expecting 23 homers and a 260 batting average from Brenton Doyle. What I was expecting with 16 outs above average. This guy in 149 games was a 3.5 win player with a 97 WRC plus. We saw Michael Ciani turn into a well-rounded player. You know what I mean? Like we saw a guy that was just supposed to be speed and defense, maybe the best defender we've seen. Like we saw Kevin Kiermaier start to hit. That's what this was. We saw
Yeah.
Kevin Pillar start to hit. We saw Ben Revere start to hit.
Yeah.
And when Ben Revere hits 23 homers, I'm all the way in on what that is.
23 home runs, 30 stolen bases. Like this guy had a real year, of course, while playing unbelievable center field,
He's my
98th percentile.
favorite. He is my favorite defender to watch. More so than Pat Bailey, more so than anybody on the infield, more so than Lindor. Brenton Doyle is my favorite defender to watch because it doesn't matter if you're watching highlights or if you're watching a Rocky game, innings 1 through 9. You're going to see some shit you don't see.
I see what you're saying about it's the overall glove because it's not just the range, it's not
He
just
has
the
the best
ability.
arm in baseball.
Thank you. It's a freaking laser. It's a laser with some of the best range in baseball. We don't normally get that from center fielders. Like even a Ben Revere, not a cannon. Like the guys who I can remember who combine a laser beam with insane range. Jackie Bradley Jr. used to go get it with anybody and just have an absolute hose from center. And Kevin Kiermaier. Like those type of guys where it's the well-roundedness at the center field position. And then he goes ahead and goes 23 and 30. I was so wrong about Brendan Doyle too. I remember it was in 2023. I mean, this guy was a legit non-factor and the numbers back that up, but I had no reason to believe that he was even going to be replacement level. I said the defense is going to carry him, but he can't swing a lick. And he certainly did. Now, it's tough to know, is this truly going to continue? But there's nothing in the numbers that tells me it won't. Like, he weirdly didn't hit fastballs very well. I don't know if that's going to continue. Like, there's nothing really in the batted ball metrics that tell me he's not going to be a 750 OPS guy who hits 20 to 25 home runs and steals 30 bases. And then if you add in that defense, definitive top 6 for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of where I'm at
I,
on him.
I'm bought in on the offensive improvement. And, even if the four seamer thing sticks around and he's got, too many moving parts or whatever it may be that are hindering his ability against four seam fastballs, I think we're looking at a guy that is going to feast on mistakes. And you give me the best defender in baseball, or at least the most fun defender in baseball to watch, feasting on mistakes. I want that guy playing center field.
Me too. So before we get into the top 5, and then I have a last word to discuss our last break. At number 5 on our top 10 center fielder list, Michael Harris of the Atlanta Braves. 110 games he played last year, 264, 304, 418. Not great. 16 home runs and 10 steals is pretty good. We know the defense is elite. 99 WRC plus, 1% below league average, and a 2.0 F4. I have to admit, I was pretty disappointed with Michael Harris last year. And I think Braves fans were. And
He
some
was
of it had
hurt.
to do with injuries. Yeah, exactly. But just overall, I think being disappointed by the year, even when he did play when he wasn't injured,
I get it.
it didn't exactly look great. And what I
Yeah.
mean by disappointed, like this guy is legit, right? 2 straight seasons with an OPS over 800 while playing electric defense in center field.
Yeah.
But in June, he got the hamstring injury. And then in the second half, post All Star break, he was right back to the Michael Harris I expected.
Yeah.
Post All Star break slash 283, 318, 506 for an 824 OPS. He had 11 home runs and 180 at bats. If you sample that out over 600 at bats, which would be a full season, that's 36 home run pace. Like Michael Harris, the reason we love him so much is not just because he's a great defender in center field, but he's a better bat than a guy like Brenton Doyle, playing in a ballpark that is much harder to hit in, even though Truist is not a bad ballpark to hit in, but compared to Coors Field. So Michael Harris is not quite the defender that Brent Doyle is, but he's like 95% of what Brent Doyle is as a defender.
Yeah.
And then at the plate, he's still a guy who can get to balls, hit them really hard, put them over the fence in order to hit 20 to 25 home runs. And then also, he's got the steals in his back pocket. A very complete player, still very young, just coming off a slightly disappointing year due to an injury.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Mike Harris, and assuming full health in 2025, I think this guy can absolutely be a top five center fielder in Major League Baseball. I've got him at five, right? Yeah, I've got him at five. Everybody had him at five except Aram, who had him at four. And it
Yeah.
was a reversal here, although funny rankings with number four now that I look at him. But
Yeah.
um, he couldn't slot in any higher for me because he was disappointing pre All Star break. But post All Star break reminded me, like, yeah, he's Michael Harris. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if in case you forgot, he's back. And that made the numbers respectable. Like that made him league average offensively. It made him a 99 WRC plus guy, and again,
Yeah.
100 is league average. So it was a fight back to what do you call it at the casino table? A fight back to even.
Fighting back to get even. I mean,
Yeah, like
sometimes like you can go up, but fighting back to get even is almost arguably better.
yeah, like he fought back to even after the All
Yeah,
Star break.
he did. And but he was anything but even post All Star break. Like it was right
Right.
back to the Michael Harris that we
Well,
expect.
and same at the table, right? Like you're anything but even when you're fighting back to even because that means you're on a heater.
Exactly. But what I will say is, yes, an injury did derail the season, but like he's kind of been injured in every season that he's been up. I know it's only been a few, so I'm not going to put the injury tab
I'm
on
not doing
him.
it yet.
I'm not doing it yet, but it is something to watch with a guy
Yeah.
like Michael Harris,
We'll
which
we'll see what happens in 25.
yeah, is kind of symbolic of this entire list. I mean, it seems
Yes.
like you're either coming off a down year, but you're a freak talent, or you're coming off a great year, but you might not be quite that good, or you've been injured a ton. Wild list, wild
Yeah.
center field list.
Insane list. And that's why we're getting to number four now. And this dude kind of gives me a headache at points.
Yeah,
Number four is Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. Dino Babers, who I think is still the offensive coordinator at Arizona, he was the head coach of Syracuse football when we were there. He would constantly go back to this saying consistently good, occasionally great. And I'm like, wow, that's Julio, isn't it? That's Julio Rodriguez, where he's always like, yeah, it's good. And then he gets 16 hits in 4 games or 17 hits in 4 games. And then he puts together these weeks where I'm like, he's the best player on the planet. And last year, it felt underwhelming, but at the end of the year, you look and he was a 4-win player with a 116 WRC plus, and he hit 20 homers. Leo had him at number one. Leo had him as the best center fielder in baseball. Aram had him at number five. I had him at four. You had him at three. Eric had him at four. Ryan had him at three. So it's kind of all over. I will say he's a heck of a lot faster than anybody was expecting in the minor leagues. He was a corner outfielder that became a borderline elite defensive center fielder. There's so much to love with Julio. I just think with how good the rookie year was, with how lucrative the extension was, and with how much they are relying on him in that Seattle lineup, I want to see superstar, and we just haven't gotten superstar yet. We've gotten star. We've gotten star every year. We just haven't gotten superstar.
so here's what I was battling when I was ranking Julio Rodriguez is to your point, we have such high expectations for Julio Rodriguez. we believe him to be on the Bobby Witt level of superstar because he's flashed those things before. And so I feel like when he comes up short of those high expectations, maybe someone like Aram docks him more than he deserves to be docked. Like as a 23-year-old, again, he put up a 3.8 F war while being a 2020 guy. Like that's a very good player while hitting in a ballpark that
Yeah.
is better for pitchers than Coors Field is for hitters
Yeah.
last year per Baseball Savant's park factors. And then in the second half, he even put up an 818 OPS compared to the first half where his OPS was below 700.
Yeah.
So he did flash some very good things in the second half of the season. In 2023, he was still fantastic. So I feel like we're pushing him down too much because he didn't reach our super high expectations for him.
Fair. Well, and I will say he set them for himself, man. He was a
100%.
6-win player in his first 2 years,
Yeah.
5.8 F wars back to back. It was a 140 something WRC plus in 22, and then it was like a 125 or something in 2023. So we're talking about a guy that is a very good offensive piece. You pair that with very good defense, and you turn into a 6-win player, but somehow, like, my expectations are 8. and it just kind of sucks when you don't get to 8 war.
Yeah. But does that mean like he should be docked? Like, I don't understand putting him at 5, Arm. Like, that's too low. It's too low. He's too good of a player because it's not like we're just relying on the bat here.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic center field defender. Fantastic.
And he swiped 37 bags in 2023.
And he stole 24 last year.
Yeah.
It's just he didn't have an all-time offensive season after putting up 5-win seasons in back-to-back years to start his career. This is still a phenomenal player. I felt bad ranking him 3 because I was like, I love the front two, but I could make a sound argument for 2. That's why I totally understand Leo at 1. Like, I understand Leo at 1 more than Arm at 5. Do you
Yeah,
side
we
more
just
with Arm at 5 or Leo at 1?
I agree probably more with Leo at 1. It's just like number 3 is a total wrench in this whole thing.
Yeah,
Like
he really is.
I don't know what to do with him.
Me neither. So let's talk about number 3. It's Mike Trout, if you couldn't guess from Jack foreshadowing it.
Yeah.
So Mike Trout played 29 games last year, but he had 10 home runs in those 29 games. 139 WRC plus. So here's the problem with Mike Trout. Over the last 4 seasons since 2021, he's averaging 67 games per season. And he's coming off a season where he played 29 games. In that time frame, he's had a calf strain that had him miss 139 days of action in 2021, back inflammation where he missed 35 days in 2022, a broken hamate bone in 2023, which caused him to miss 89 days, and last season he tore his meniscus, forcing him to miss basically the entire season. In that span, he has a 951 OPS. And if you average his numbers out, 7.3 WAR, 46 home runs, a 160 OPS plus. So if he played every game those years that he's been hurt, his numbers from those seasons would equate to 46 home runs every year, a
Yeah.
7-win season, and a 160 OPS plus, meaning he was 60% better than the league average hitter. So we're not debating talent.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit that he hit 220 in a 29 game sample. He was also unlucky when you look at the batted ball metrics, like his quality of contact, but it couldn't normalize because the 29 game sample. But here's what we know for sure, or at least what I know for sure. Mike Trout is still a top 10 talent in baseball. He hasn't been healthy since 2020, shortened season, and really 2019. The 2020s decade, he's averaging 67 games. So how would you rank a guy who is still a top 10 talent in Major League Baseball who's never on the field? What do we do? And because we're also projecting for 2025, right?
Yeah.
Who in their right mind has any idea how many games he's going to play next year?
Nobody.
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 So what do we do?
You factor that in a little bit. It's
Yeah.
like that's why he's not one. That's why he's four for you.
Yeah. So
You
that's
know,
why I
like
have Julio Rodriguez over him. Like I would take Julio Rodriguez next year. Like if
I get it.
anybody wants to make a war bet between Julio and Mike Trout, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here right now.
I don't
But
think anybody's taking that with you because he might play 20 games, he might play 110, and if he plays 110, he's going to be a 6-win player.
I know if he plays
It's
110, he might win. He
it's
might win
just
that. He
it's
might win that
crazy.
bet.
It's crazy, dude. So like I had him at 2, so did Ryan. You and Leo had him at 4. Eric and Aram had him at 3. We're all over the place here. But the reason we're all over the place is because it's just a games bet. Like I think he's the second best center fielder in baseball because I think he plays 110 games.
So here's what BetMGM thinks. BetMGM set his home run line at 20 and a half. And so they're asking you to make that bet. He hit 10 in 29 games.
Yeah, no, so I
Like, would you go over or under that?
I
Because he's
look
either
at that
going way over or what, or I mean, he still might get close in like 40 games.
I look at that as them setting the line of games played at 75 to 80.
Yep. Half a season. So if they're basically setting a line at half a season, how can I rank him over Julio?
Yeah,
How can anybody?
I don't know.
But then the response is, Peter, did you hear the first part of your argument?
Yeah,
where he where he's been fucking awesome. Even
yeah,
in the games he does play, like battling through injuries on the field,
yeah.
playing at elite level. But that's where we're at with him. So I ranked him 4. You ranked him 2. So you're confident that he's going to be healthy, or are you
No,
kind of
dude,
saying
I'm
I
not
got to
confident
throw?
in anything, man.
Yeah.
Throw the word confident out the window. I don't know what's going to happen with Mike Trout. I just felt like it was disrespectful to put him any lower than 3, which is why I feel like you are doing wrong by Mike Trout and you should apologize.
I want to apologize. I love Mike Trout so much, but I think when I was coming down to it, I make these bets in my mind. And I
Yep.
say, who would I rather take, Julio or Mike Trout? Like as a gambler, like
Yep.
it's 1000% Julio.
Yeah.
And then I put him 4 because Michael Harris.
Yeah.
Am I totally sold that Michael Harris is going to play all 162 next year? No, I am not.
No.
So then
Are you
that's why I
sold he's
put
going to play
Trout.
more than 60? Yes.
So
Like,
that's inside the brain of a perfect ranker like
yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
right? You hear the wheels turning and it turns out a perfect list. And, you got it a little wrong, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. But let's get to number 2 here. And
Wait,
speaking
hold
of,
on. I'm
yeah.
surprised that you didn't just yell at me. Like you're calling me wrong for making ranking Mike Trout high. You just let me get that one.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Listen, people, it's not my job to say, "Oh, that thing you just said, let's critique it." Like that's just the audience, man. They'll
That's
listen to
true.
you and say, "What a moron." And keep moving.
That's true. Let me know what my moron plus is. I brought up
Yeah,
nuts plus in the last one. Give me moron plus.
moron plus. Let's get to number 2 here. And number 2 is brand new on this list. He was not a center fielder at this time last year. Jackson Merrill of the San Diego Padres is number 2. Aram had him at 1. So did Eric. Leo had him at 2. You had him at 2. Ryan had him at 4. I had him at 3. He was a 5.5 win player last year, man. 5.3 WAR, a 130 WRC plus, hit 292, slugged 500, drove in 90, 24 homers. And the most impressive part about Mr. Merrill was the 11 outs above average. He was a shortstop in 23, shows up to spring training as a left fielder, and then goes to Korea as a center fielder for that early opening day. What? The fact that he took this and ran with it, it was very similar to what Julio did in 2022, where it's like, this guy's a center fielder and he's this good already. This was just Julio 2 years later.
Yeah.
And it depends where you view that. Like I gave Trout the legacy bump, but I have zero issue waving the white flag and saying, yeah, you know what? Merrill absolutely should be ranked ahead of Mike Trout here.
And I think the reason why you're totally fine waving the white flag is there are 0 holes to point in Jackson Merrill's game as a 21-year-old. Like, when does that ever happen? Where we can't point to something and say, well, that wasn't really great. The one thing maybe you could say is he didn't walk a ton, But it's okay if you don't walk a ton when you hit 292 and you slug 500. And we look at batted ball metrics, right? We look at your quality of contact. A stat we talk about a lot is xWOBA, right? Looking at the quality of contact while also factoring in strikeouts and walks. By that metric, when you compare it to his WOBA, he was unlucky.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
A guy with no holes got unlucky. And as a 21 year old, put up a 5.3 WAR.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to come to our listeners with he's 21 years old. This is what he can get better at. This is something he struggled with. We're really excited to project this moving forward, or go the other way with him.
Yeah.
Have you found anything that you're going the other way with him? I don't
No.
even know what to project with him, too, because it's like, I just think he's going to get better. I
So
think as he
my
matures as a hitter, he's going to walk a little bit more. I don't
yeah.
think he's going to punch out higher than 20% really ever in his career. He's always going to be a 20 plus home run guy. He's always going to steal bases. And he learned a new position and almost mastered it as a 21-year-old.
Yeah,
This is somewhere where we have to rank really, really high because he could even go higher than number two. He could easily be the best center fielder in baseball next year.
for sure. And we had a couple people think so.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note like who number one is, and we're gonna get to that in a moment. But like, I feel like the level of explosion from one he doesn't have, or he doesn't have yet. And if we see that explosion, I will have zero issue. I will lose no sleep putting him at one next year if we see that explosion. I look at Trout and I see Mickey Mantle, and then I look at one and I see a guy who could go 30-60. And I like, does Merrill have that? No, I think he has 7 wins, but I think number one has 9 wins. Like it's just a hard song and dance, man. Like it's difficult to decipher, but I tried my hardest and don't throw rocks at me.
And throwing rocks at you because we agree. We're both aligned on the best center fielder in baseball being Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So let's talk through what Corbin Carroll has done so far in his small but awesome career. Comes up as a 21-year-old, 30% better than league average by WRC plus. He was on pace for a 7-win season by FWAR if he played all 162 at that rate. Then a 2020 or 22-year-old Corbin Carroll comes
Yeah.
up the next year and puts up a 5.5-win season. Elite defense, 30% better than the league average hitter. And we have to remind everybody, like Jackson Merrill's 21, going to be 22. In Corbin Carroll's 22-year-old season, 5.5 wins, 25 jacks, 54 steals. And then 23-year-old Corbin Carroll has a bad first half, right? He's
Yeah.
dealt with a shoulder thing, right, which took him out in 2023 on a swing, probably dealing with that at the beginning of the season. Wasn't
Yeah.
great, but again, that's an excuse, but it's not the full reason why he was, right? Arm talked about the mechanics in his swing. It was just all out of whack. And then in the second half, and the reason why he's my number one center fielder is he went right back to it. Second half, 919 OPS, 17 bombs, 17 stolen bases in just 63 games, which gave him a 147 WRC plus. He put up a 3.1 FWAR in that span. That was seventh in baseball over that stretch.
Yeah.
He slugged 568 in the second half. And to your point, that's been the amazing part about Corbin Carroll is he has real in-game power. It's not just the speed and the defense and the ability to make consistent contact. It's the loud contact that you and I both agree with that I think elevates him to be the best center fielder in baseball. And I think that's the difference that we see between Merrill and Carroll is
Yeah.
that both are fantastic defenders. Corbin Carroll's better on the base paths,
Yeah.
and Corbin Carroll probably has more power than Jackson Merrill does.
I think it's close, and I think Carroll can swipe. I don't know. Like, what's Merrill's peak stolen base total?
I don't know. He stole 16 last year. He never stole more than 15 in the minors.
So
Ain't
let's
stealing
call it
54.
25. Let's call it 25. He's not stealing 54. I think Merrill. I think Carroll rhyme scheme. I think Carroll can swipe 60 in a season.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. When you can put up identical power numbers, swipe triple the bags, and like I don't think that center field defense for Carroll is going to be as good as it is Merrill. Like I just the offensive production is probably going to be considerably better given the explosion. And again, if Merrill proves that he has explosion, then call me like I will absolutely concede this, but Carroll, the ceiling somehow seems higher.
So to your point about explosion, right? That's not average exit velocity. You're probably looking at max.
No, I'm talking about max. I'm talking about sprint speed. Like I'm
Exactly.
talking about all of these things.
No, that's I was furthering your point.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
talking about max effort. Jackson Merrill hit a ball 111 last year. That was his
Yeah.
hardest hit ball. Corbin Carroll last year, or in 2023, excuse me, 114.
Yeah.
He hit a ball. Like they both had the same exit velocity, but in terms of explosion, Corbin Carroll 96th percentile in sprint speed. Like
Yeah.
that's why I think he elevates just slightly above. And he's just proven it longer
Yeah.
to Jackson Merrill.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't have a great first half, but he was a little bit hurt. And then we saw what he did in the second half. He was phenomenal.
Right.
So 24-year-old Corbin Carroll is our best center fielder in baseball. 21-year-old Jackson Merrill is our second best. Julio Rodriguez, 24. And then Mike Trout, first ballot Hall of Famer. Then Michael Harris, 24. That's our top five.
Yeah.
Look at the center field position. And again, I think Michael Harris should be five, however you rank him. And then four, throw them all in a bag.
Jumble it up.
Yeah, I guess my one takeaway from this discussion is that, like, let's not dock Julio as much as Aram did.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. What's your last word, man?
So my last word, I want to talk about the legend of William Bill Foster, who is one of the best pitchers in baseball history and has an argument for the best left-handed pitcher in baseball history in the Negro Leagues. He pitched from 1923 to 1937, and he is number 2 in ERA plus all time, only trailing Mariano Rivera all time. And what ERA plus does is it takes a player's ERA and
Yep.
normalizes it across the entire league. It accounts for factors like the ballpark you pitched in, the opponents you faced, and normalizes across different eras of baseball. So Mariano is number 1, Bill Foster is number 2. And these stories are wild. And this is per an MLB Network segment. I don't know who was speaking, but you can find the video on YouTube. And here's just a couple of stories from that video. In 1933, he was the starting pitcher for the first ever inaugural East-West All-Star game in the Negro Leagues. Debuted the same year as MLB's first All-Star game. He threw a complete game in that All-Star team. It led his team to a win. When we're used to in the All-Star game, right? An inning, 2 innings. He
Yeah.
threw all 9 and won the game. He needed to get his team against the Kansas City Monarchs. He needed to win both games of a doubleheader for them to advance in the playoffs. Needed to win both games. Foster faced off against Bullet Rogan, and Foster threw 2 complete game shutouts in both games of the doubleheader. Bullet Rogan did the same, and Bullet Rogan is third all time in ERA plus, and he got the Giants to the World Series. These Negro League legends need to be talked about more. It's one of my favorite things to dive into. Late night, looking into baseball history stuff. These guys were insane.
Yeah.
Like they'd grab the ball every single day and throw 9 innings no matter what. Legends. Legends. Like you think best Negro League pitcher of all time, you think Satchel Paige. Probably Bill Foster, or at least by ERA plus. Second only to Mariano Rivera. All
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
What a legend.
It's cool, man.
Yeah. Do you have a last word or?
No, I don't. I was just hanging out, banking on you.
So we're leaving the legend of Bill Foster to end our Friday episode, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support, drop a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. We'll also rate and reviewing Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. You know what's live? I got the hat.
Yeah.
Sweatshirts. Go get them all. Merch store. For Jack McMullen, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you on Monday, of course. And with that, thank you, everybody.